Hi, my name is Casey Walters, and I am in Dr. St. Mars speech class in National Park College, and I am going to be conducting a persuasive speech. And I want y'all to sit tight, and I'm going to start this with a visual that I want to share with you. Now, as you're watching this, just take in your emotion, embrace it. So, are we divorced yet? Okay, you guys, basically, right now, I would like to know what y'all are thinking. How did that make you feel? I mean, how did it make you feel for me to even say, are we divorced yet? So I'm going to be honest with you. Just a couple weeks ago, I started watching this sitcom or this series. It's got about 5 seasons so far, maybe 6. And it's called Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. And it really had me thinking after I saw one of the main characters and what she was doing. And basically, she is an author, and she did write books like Girlfriend's Guide to Marriage, Girlfriend's Guide to Your First Baby, Girlfriend's Guide to Having the Perfect Family. And then she starts going through a rocky marriage. Her marriage starts getting rocky, and she's releasing her next book, and she flips out. And in the way that she saves her image or her brand is by reinventing herself. And since she was going through a divorce, that's what it went to. And literally her brand became, are we divorced yet? And I laughed. I'm not even going to lie to you. I laughed. I laughed. So, I laughed really hard, and everybody in the audience, at her book reading and everything were laughing and joking and carrying on. And then I stopped for a minute and thought about it, and I was kind of embarrassed and disgusted. I was overwhelmed with emotion, to be honest with you. And the reason why is because divorce is a devastating situation. You get into marriage and you are in love. You're totally in love with someone. You plan on spending the rest of your life with one another. And for one reason or another, they call it quits. But why? So instead of thinking, are we divorced yet, and encouraging that thought, I want to promote, for people to consider, is divorce really the best option for me? In some situations, it is. Some situations, it was unhealthy from the get-go. It was unsafe. It clearly should not have happened. But in so many more situations, or in a lot of situations, that's not the case. It's a lack of communication. It's a lack of this, a lack of that, or life got too busy and there's a gap between y'all. But you just need to bridge that gap. And I am a firm believer that, there is a solution for everything. You just got to get back to where you started. And so in doing that, you need to know, that there are other people who have gone through this, obviously. There are other people that you can resort to get information, to ask questions, to get advice. Obviously, you aren't in a position where you feel comfortable enough to communicate with your spouse, or if you are, then by all means do, because it's imperative to communicate in any type of relationship to make any type of relationship work. There's a lot of statistics out there, and divorce, like for instance, divorce prevalence by age that was between 1950 to 2016. This is what the diagram is right here. And you'll see how big the rise in divorce is as compared to the decline in marriage. It's catastrophic. And then right here, these are actually, I sat and Googled just to see, how big of a thing, divorce really is. And, internet, of course, out there. And I mean, if you got a question about something, what do you do? Google it. Well, it seems like there's actually more stuff out there on divorce and what to do after, and reinventing yourself and getting yourself back out there and dating and yada, yada. But there is also just as much stuff out there to promote healthy, reconciliation and reinventing you and your husband, your family, and everything else. I mean, when you're in that moment, try to think about, what are we even fighting over? Most of the time you won't even know. You won't remember. You're just fighting to be fighting because that's what y'all do now. Y'all don't communicate. So just think about it and remember, we used to fight together as a team. We used to combat everything as a team. Right here, I've got some more statistics, and these are divorce rates by 10-year age groups, 1990 to 2012. And it is showing the increase in divorce and the major decline in couples that actually stay together. It's really sad. And then this is just another image that I got, and I thought that it was interesting, like your biggest thing to think about is, where am I going to live during my divorce? Let's think about maybe, where are we going to go on our vacation, or where can we go on our couples retreat? Just got to change your way of thinking. It's perspective. Right here, it's showing the changing values, and this is number per 1,000 people. And this is marriage and divorce is what we're actually looking at here. And this is a chart, and it shows the all of a sudden it was an increase in marriage to a major drop, while the divorce rate is just constantly increasing. Let's see if we can do something about that. And I mean, basically, it comes down to losing the foolish pride, you guys. Let's talk it out. Everything is so beautiful around us. I mean, look at this picture right here. These guys are sitting here on a beach, beautiful water, cool clothes. Now they're pouting. I mean, everything's beautiful around them. So they just need to lose their foolish pride, and everything is so beautiful around them. And remember, it is us against the world, us against the world. Let's get over here and enjoy the world together. Right here, this is just an image that I wanted to share with y'all to kind of demonstrate, I mean, the way that I see divorce. And I mean, it was actually illustrating a blog or whatever for kid safety rules for divorce. Of course, if you are going to be going through a divorce, if you decide that's the best option for you, or while you're, looking at all your options and everything else, or trying to work on things, you definitely want to make sure that the kids understand what's going on. Let them know it's not their fault, nothing they can do to change anything. They're perfect just the way they are. Just let mommy and daddy, work on whatever they're trying to work on. Never talk about one another or the other one, or never talk bad, negatively, anything. Don't let them hear you fight, argue, whatever. It's horrible for kids. And instead of going over those rules, you should be talking about seeking some counseling, finding a good church home. Maybe you and your maybe all you can have family meeting and ask everyone to write down all the things that they love about each other and they love about y'all's family, and then have a set time, whether it be that day or maybe a week later, that y'all are going to talk about it together. Reunite the family as well as the couple. This is another thing I found awfully disturbing. It says the best ways to divorce, do-it-yourself guide. Horrible. You should be thinking about best ways to save your marriage and improve your family system and dynamic. Perspective is everything, like I said earlier. Challenge yourself to win. This is your family. Save it, whatever it takes. So I've got a couple things right here that I saw kept on coming up. And I mean, I've heard from families and friends and colleagues, talking about things within their marriage that are wrong, or just in the lunchroom. How can I save my marriage because it's become so boring? Sure, all these are going to sound familiar, like I said. How do I save my marriage because we're suffocating each other? Or he's suffocating me, she's suffocating me. Saving a marriage, but our personalities are clashing. Well, why don't you consider talking about what's clashing? What's bothering you? What has changed? What can I do to make things different? Save your marriage. Is it really worth it? Of course it's worth it. You guys decided to take a vow together. What wouldn't be worth it about it? Then right here, I've got another imagery, and this is basically a diagram. And it is showing the ways to a divorce coach in the client relationship dynamic. Forget that. Let's just pass that up. Instead, let's think about getting a life coach instead of a divorce coach. Couples therapy, couples retreats, reevaluating your goals and get back on the same page. Set aside time for each other as a couple, me time, family time. Don't make excuses. We can make a schedule to budget our time and priorities. Believe me, if you make a schedule, you make the effort, you'll see just how much time you really have and how much stress that takes off your family as well. Join a church. After church hopping, you and your family can discuss what y'all like about each one of the churches and why and why not, and discuss it and make a decision as a family. If you haven't found one yet, just keep going until you do. Make it a thing. Set healthy boundaries individually, as a couple, and as a family with your family. Boundaries are very important. It shows you that you respect each other and you know where each other stands. Like, this is where I start and this is where you begin. That's how it should be with everyone. And it makes for a lot less hostile environment. It's helpful for relieving stress, and it just creates a comfort level. And finally, right here, I really like this imagery that I found online. And it was basically just a cover of a book, but divorce and remarriage in the church. There's another thing out there, and I saw it when I was watching, maybe it's called Fireproof. If you haven't watched it, definitely highly encourage you to go to Redbox and get it tonight. It's called The Love Dare. Well, the movie's called Fireproof, but it's about this book that's called The Love Dare. And basically, it just, my words for it is, are you up for the challenge to reinvent yourself, your marriage, and your family? Who wouldn't be? It's a challenge. It's for your family. Right here, I just wrote down some helpful hints and suggestions. Remember that we love each other. Everyone has tough times. But remember, we have had a lot of good times. Did you hear that? Yes, everyone has had a lot of rough times. In any relationship, you're going to have rough times. But remember, we have had a lot of really good times. There should be a balance there. If there's not, find out where it needs to be 50-50 again. Make it happen. We made a vow to each other and to God to have unconditional love for one another. Check yourself. What things do you know you can personally do to improve one thing in your marriage? Consider each other's likes and wants and do something just because you know it would make the other one happy or put a smile on your spouse's face. Fall back in love, guys. It can happen. Make that your challenge. Make your challenge making your husband fall back in love with you. Husbands, make your wife fall back in love with you. She did it once. You helped her do it. Let it happen again. Make it happen again. It can happen if you want it to. If you feel like we are beyond that, I assure you there have been far worse things happen. But just remember, there are far better things to come if you just seek help. And there's plenty of help out there. And right here are just some different things I put together. If you have kids, it's especially important to think about the consequences of a separation. Studies show that children grow up with happy parents not only show significant signs of improved social skills, but also have more resilient immune systems. Isn't that crazy? It's true, though. I read a lot of research on it. Your children see that you and your spouse are unhappy, and remember, it's serving as an example for them. Is that the example that you really want your children to see? That being said, two parents can be perfectly happy and set a good example for their children, even if they're not together, as long as they remain respectful of one another. So in any case, if you're not quite sure what you feel for your spouse, try imagining them being intimate with another person. Do you hear that? If you're not quite sure what you feel for your spouse, try imagining catching them in an intimate situation with another person. How does that make you feel? If you don't feel anything at all, then you might be ready to move on. If, on the other hand, you feel a surge of emotion, like you want to hurt somebody, or excuse me, or you feel like heartbroken or whatever, if you feel something about it, there's definitely some emotions there, good, bad, or in between. That's your woman. That's your man. Save it so it doesn't get to that. And then I just want to say, is this really how you want your story to end? All the best stories were rewritten. All the best stories have been rewritten, had corrections, edits, and additional chapters. So can yours. So just face it. Admit you're powerless. Pray for your mate, your marriage, and yourself, and your children, of course. Adjust your expectations. Yes, you probably do have some unrealistic expectations. You need to come to a common ground. Resist the enemy. If you're a Christian, you know what I'm talking about. And if not, like I said, me personally, I put God first. When I do, everything else falls into place. Focus on changing yourself, not your mate. Reach out for support. Now, support can be in any way, shape, or form. It could be your best friend. Sometimes your best friend can be your worst enemy when you're trying to make your family better or whatever else, because your best friend may have had a really ugly breakup and her entire family may have been, divorced. So check that also. May not be the person you want to be talking about whether you should make it work or not. So discernment is very important. Reconcile with your mate. Reconciling can mean so many different things. First step is letting your spouse know, communication. Tell them, just have a heart-to-heart. I always call it coming to Jesus talk. Meet your spouse's most important emotional needs. Emotional needs are very important. If you aren't real sure about what that is, Google it. Everyone's are different, just like everyone's love language is different. It's very important that you know each other's love language and your emotional needs and what each other needs from one another. And finally, basically what I want to get back to and what I want to reiterate to you guys is reinvent yourself, rewrite your story. This can become your favorite love story. Do you hear that? Your story can become your favorite love story. Thank you guys. I hope you have a great day.